Hi, I'm Adele Anderson from Destiny Getaways and fulfillyourdestiny.ca. Welcome to my live blog, which is continuing on the theme of evolutionary psychology and how that affects not only our happiness, but the way that we are in the world. So there are ways that we can master our fears and our self-limiting beliefs that affect not only our self-esteem, but our ability to be loved, and feel belonging, that we belong in the world, and also feeling safe and secure within our needs, so that making sure that our needs are met. So I'm just going to step away from the camera and allow you to view the beautiful Sunshine Coast. I'm coming to you live from the west coast of British Columbia. You're looking at Malaspina Strait, which is part of the Pacific Ocean, and enjoy the view. I'll just step away and we can have our little talk for the day. Okay, so yesterday on my last video I spoke about mastering the ego mind, the body mind, and the soul mind. And today is going to illuminate how we can actually manage that and master those zones. So how each one of these relates to our happiness and our ability to be healthy in our worlds. When we look at mastery, there's a need to manage our fear-based beliefs. These are the beliefs that stop us from not only achieving our goals, but feeling stable in the world. So if you're experiencing stress or anxiety, there's something that needs to be looked at, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So some of these are unconscious fears, and some of them are conscious. We know what they are, but for whatever reason, we're trying to just ignore them. So if we have stress or anxiety, then, these I consider sacred messengers. They're bringing our attention to something that needs to be looked at. And there are three different types of stresses and anxiety. The first one is feelings. And consider our feelings of anxiety and stress, like I said, to be like sacred messengers. They're a very visible, feelable sign to show us that there's something that's not in balance within our inner world and something that requires our consideration. These are the deeper fears within us, and they actually take the most work. Emotional upsets are the second type of fear and anxiety. So these are a result of long-term worries, where we actually anticipate that things aren't going to turn out well. We use our stop words like, I will try to be better, or it never works out, or I can't do that. It always is this way. So these are stop words, and when we understand our subconscious brain, like a small child, needs clarity, so we need to speak in very clear language, otherwise we end up sabotaging ourselves. So this also indicates to us that our coping mechanisms are a little bit out of whack, that we're not quite coping within our world. And the third one is when we actually have conflict with other people. Whether it's a short-term conflict or it's just a situation that came up, whether it's road rage or, you're going to tell somebody off on the telephone. So these can be resolved fairly quickly through personal mastery. So how exactly do we manage our fear or master our fears? Well, the first thing that we have to be willing to do is to recognize that something is out of balance. Our desire to change must be greater than our desire to remain the same. And that's basic psychology. We don't shift until we feel uncomfortable. So by recognizing that there's something that needs to change, and then we name it and we own it. So accepting that it exists, and then we work through to dissolve the power that it has over us. So how do we do that? If we're unaware of what our fears are, we're in a state of what they call unconscious incompetence. Sounds kind of nasty, doesn't it? But it's easier said as we don't know what we don't know. So how do we begin to know what these are? How do we find out what our fears are? Well, we actually take time to witness our feelings and our thoughts in different situations. We listen to what we feel within our body and what's arising in our conscious mind. So when we become aware of what we feel and the energy that surrounds that, we need to take time to pause and reflect. And allow time for us to just sit in that until it dissipates. And sometimes that can take, a few minutes to allow it to pass. And once we are in this, we can move to our second state of entering conscious competence. So this means that we've actually recognized and become aware of a fear that we have. We've noticed why we feel uncomfortable, but we're still not aware of how we can master this fear or the root cause of our discomfort. So how we do this is we become an observer in our life. So if you could imagine yourself sitting in a movie theater and actually watching a film up on the screen, this would be an observation of yourself. And it allows us to step back from our immediate feelings. And a lot of therapists use this in dealing with traumatic situations with their clients so that we don't feel their pain. We need to separate ourselves a little bit. So we become an observer, very similar to someone sitting in a movie theater, watching themselves on a movie screen. And this allows us to do a bunch of things. It allows us time to notice the nuances, the expression on your face, what that means to you, the feelings that you're having, and being able to describe them in great detail, and potentially notice the judgments that come up in and around the feelings that you're having. So, and we also notice the language that exists when this happens. So if you notice that you have, I'm just going to close this door. If you notice that as you're describing your feelings that you have stop words like I can't do this, or it always turns out this way, or they do this, where you lose your ability to have control of the situation, then you need to recognize that those stop words are there. And then I'll move through into a greater explanation of how we release that. It's good to write this information down because we forget. And so having a journal can be extremely helpful, because what we want to do is we want to recognize what type of fear it is. So it's usually based in the first 3 stages of our psychological evolution. The first one, if you've watched prior videos, is safety, security, and survival. So we can be thrown back into this stage whenever we feel at risk in some way, whether it's a financial risk or, moving to a new community and, not having a job, or maybe, something to do with the home. So that can throw us into that phase. The second stage of psychological evolution is relationships and belonging. So the ability to feel loved, the ability to love, and the ability to feel like we belong in a community of some sort. So start to see where your fear is lying. Are you worried about being alone? Is there a feeling that you don't feel loved? If it's that type of fear, then you know that the root cause is based in the evolution of yourself between the age of 2 and 12. So you can start to see where this root cause of that deep fear began. And it's just a feeling that arises within your psyche that then drops you back into this old pattern that you had a long time ago. So it's really fascinating, and it can be quite illuminating. And then the third stage of psychological evolution begins in our early teens. And this is our building of our self-esteem. So if it's a feeling of I'm not good enough, I'm not capable, or they're special but I'm not, then you can consider that you developed this within the ages of 13 through 20. And so you can go back into that part of your life and see where the root of that self-esteem issue began. So it can be very cool. So these are the stages that we go through for actually working out our mastery and then releasing this fear and anxiety and stress from our body. And some of them, of course, are easier than others to get rid of. But once we understand where the root is, then we can understand the belief system that we built around it. So if we have an issue of not feeling loved as a child, and so therefore we get issues of not feeling loved as an adult, we can maybe consider that we built a belief system that we're not lovable. For whatever reason, we're difficult to love. And so therefore, when we have a belief system, our actions enable that. So we'll sabotage ourselves when it comes to love. We'll sabotage our ability to stay in a relationship because our belief system is that we are unlovable. So our actions will actually try to create that again. So if there's difficulty in the relationship mode, then we can go back and look at that stage and see how we can release the fears so that you can go on and have a very loving, deep, committed relationship. So some of this stuff may feel a little bit daunting, but a conscious coach or a destiny coach like myself illuminates your story more quickly. And my next live blog, I will deal with the final stage of actually bringing awareness to these difficulties that we have and our anxieties and fears that rise up in relationship to having other people within our story. So sometimes our fears are familial, or they're based with an ex-lover or a difficulty with a friend, and so that is a little bit of a different awareness that I'll discuss in my next live blog. So thank you for staying tuned today. I'm hoping that my video is actually lining up with the correct alignment today. I don't know what happened. But anyway, have a beautiful day out there. It's going to clear up here and be just a beautiful sunny day on the Sunshine Coast. So I bless you all for tuning in. And if you have any questions, you can always send me a quick message on either Messenger or directly onto my Facebook page. Stay well out there.